Ilara Moore learned to recognize hunger by sound. It wasn't loud at first. It started small. A restless breath, a tiny whimper that rose and fell like the warning siren of something about to break. At 12:47 a.m., that sound cut through the silence of her apartment. Ilara sat on the kitchen floor barefoot, the cold tile numbing the soles of her feet. The refrigerator behind her was empty, except for a carton of milk that expired yesterday and a half-used bottle of water she kept pretending was enough. It wasn't. From the bedroom came the cry again, stronger now. "Ilara, you've got this," she whispered to herself, even though there was no one listening. She stood, crossed the kitchen, and picked up the baby bottle from the counter. She shook it gently. The liquid inside was thin, more water than formula. She hated herself every time she did this. Hated the math. Hated the compromise. Hated that motherhood had turned into calculations she never imagined making. Isla cried again. That one broke her. Ilara grabbed her phone. She didn't scroll. She didn't hesitate. She didn't allow herself time to think about pride or shame or how many times she'd already asked. She opened her contacts and tapped the name she promised she wouldn't need again. Her sister. Her fingers hovered over the screen. Just $40, she told herself. Just enough to get through the night. She typed fast, afraid she'd change her mind. "I'm sorry to ask again. I just need $40 for formula. I get paid Friday. I'll pay you back. Please." She pressed send. Only later would she realize she never checked the number. Ilara placed the phone face down on the counter, like it could accuse her. Then she leaned forward, elbows on her knees, hands covering her face. Her chest tightened with that familiar mix of guilt and panic, the kind that made breathing feel like work. In the bedroom, Isla's cries sharpened. Ilara stood quickly and scooped her up, rocking her gently. "I know, baby. I know." She kissed Isla's forehead and swayed back and forth, whispering promises she wasn't sure she could keep. 5 minutes passed, then her phone vibrated. Ilara froze. Her stomach dropped before she even looked, like her body already knew something was wrong. She laid Isla gently in the crib and walked back to the kitchen, slowly, carefully, like bad news might shatter if she moved too fast. She flipped the phone over. "I think this message was meant for someone else." Her heart slammed into her ribs. She stared at the screen, heat rushing to her face. A wrong number. She'd sent her most humiliating moment to a stranger. "I'm so sorry," she typed immediately, fingers shaking. "Wrong number. Please ignore." She locked the phone and pressed it against the counter, closing her eyes. Of course, she couldn't even ask for help correctly. A laugh escaped her, short, bitter, almost hysterical. From the other side of the city, Adrian Vale had just finished firing someone. Not dramatically, not angrily. Clean, efficient, necessary. The office around him was quiet now, walls of glass reflecting the city lights below. He loosened his tie and reached for the phone he never gave anyone. That was when the message appeared. "I just need $40 for milk." He frowned. He read it again. It wasn't flirtatious. It wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't clever. It sounded careful, like someone apologizing for existing. When the follow-up message came, "Wrong number. Please ignore it." He should have done exactly that. Delete. Move on. Instead, he typed, "I think this message was meant for someone else." Seconds later, another reply. "I'm so sorry." Something in his chest tightened. He didn't know why. He didn't even know her name. Before logic could intervene, his fingers moved again. "Is your daughter okay?" Ilara stared at the screen when the message came through. Her confusion outweighed her embarrassment. Who asked that? Not "who are you?" Not "what do you want?" but "is your daughter okay?" She considered blocking the number. She should have. Every instinct told her this was a mistake. But exhaustion has a way of lowering defenses. "We'll manage," she typed. "I'm sorry again." The reply came almost immediately. "I can help, no strings." Ilara laughed out loud and a sharp, humorless sound. "I don't take money from strangers." There was a pause. Long enough for her to think the conversation was over. Then let me not be one. "My name's Adrian." She didn't reply. She went back to Isla, fed her what little she could, and held her until the cries softened into sleepy breaths. Ilara pressed her cheek to her daughter's hair and closed her eyes. When she opened them, she did something she never thought she would. She sent him her payment handle. 3 seconds later, her phone buzzed. $4,000 received from Adrian Vale. Ilara's legs went weak. She sat down hard on the edge of the bed, staring at the screen like it might vanish if she blinked. "This is too much," she typed. "I only needed $40. "It's yours," he replied. No catch. Tears blurred her vision. "Thank you," she wrote. I don't even know what to say. The response came slower this time. You don't have to say anything, Adrian wrote. Just take care of Isla. Alara stopped breathing. Her hands trembled. She had never told him her daughter's name. Alara didn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, the number appeared behind her eyelids. 4,000. Too much to be accidental. Too deliberate to be kind. Before dawn, she checked the payment app again, half expecting the balance to vanish. It didn't. The money sat there, quiet and heavy, like something that didn't belong to her life. Seisler slept peacefully for the first time in days. That should have brought relief. Instead, it brought fear. Ilara made weak coffee and sat at the kitchen table, staring at her phone like it might explode. The silence felt louder than the crying had the night before. She typed, I need to return this. The reply didn't come right away. Minutes passed. Morning light slipped through the blinds. The city woke up without her permission. Then the phone buzzed. You don't. 2 words. Final. Certain. Her throat tightened. I can't accept this. Not like this. This time the response took longer. You can, he wrote. And you will. A chill ran down her spine, not because of the words, but because of the confidence behind them. As if refusal was just a temporary illusion, she forced herself to breathe. Why? The typing indicator appeared, disappeared, returned. Because I know what it is to have nothing, Adrian replied, and I know what it is to have too much. It wasn't an explanation. It was a fracture in the story he wasn't telling. High above the river in a glass tower that never truly slept, Adrian Vale stood alone in his office. Assistants moved outside the door. Meetings stacked themselves into the morning. Numbers waited for his attention. He ignored all of it. His phone rested on the desk, the conversation still open. Ilara Moore. Finding her had been effortless. It always was. A name was never just a name to him. It was an entry point. The file told a familiar story. A career interrupted, medical debt, an eviction narrowly avoided. No mention of the child's father. Then there was the photo. Ilara wasn't smiling. She looked caught between determination and exhaustion, as if she were bracing herself for impact. There was strength there, and something else. Something unfinished. Adrian closed the file. This isn't curiosity, he said quietly. But he recognized fixation when it surfaced. The phone vibrated again. I'll pay you back, Ilara wrote, even if you don't want me to. A faint smile touched his mouth. I'm not in a hurry, he replied, but there is one condition. Ilara's heart skipped. She had known there would be one. What is it? The pause felt intentional. I want to meet you. Her world narrowed to those 4 words. Meet. Not a date. Not a favor. Not a transaction. Meet. That wasn't part of this, she typed. There is no this, Adrian replied. Just a conversation, public place, you choose. Her instincts screamed caution. Gratitude tangled with fear. She thought of Isla, of a fridge that wouldn't be empty tonight, of breathing without counting pennies. One conversation, she wrote. That's all, he agreed. Ilara set the phone down, her hands cold. She didn't know yet that the money was only the door, that the real cost hadn't revealed itself, that this meeting would shift the balance of her life. And Adrian. Adrian already knew exactly what he was doing. Ilaria arrived 10 minutes early. She stood across the street from the cafe, watching people move in and out, pretending she was just another woman waiting for someone who might never show. Her reflection stared back at her from the glass. Tired eyes, careful posture, a calm that had been practiced, not felt. She checked her phone. No new messages. The cafe was small, but bright. Tucked between a bookstore and a closed florist. Public. Safe. She had chosen it on purpose. Still, her pulse refused to slow. Ilara crossed the street and stepped inside. The bell above the door chimed softly, announcing her presence. She chose a table near the window, her back straight, hands folded in her lap, like she was preparing for an interview rather than a conversation that could change everything. She ordered tea, something simple, something grounding. Every time the door opened, her chest tightened. Then it happened. The room shifted. Not loudly, not obviously, but enough for her to feel it before she saw him. Adrian Vale didn't rush. He didn't scan the room. He didn't look uncertain. He walked in like he already belonged to the space, like the world adjusted around him without asking. His gaze found hers immediately, and held. Ilara's breath caught, not because he was handsome, though he was, but because of the way he looked at her. Calm, focused, as if the noise of the cafe didn't exist. He approached her table and stopped. Ilara, he said. Just your name, no question. Yes. Thank you for coming. His voice was low, even, controlled, He pulled out the chair across from her and sat. No small. She finally said. I wanted to, he replied. She studied him carefully now. The tailored coat, the watch that cost more than her monthly rent, the absence of arrogance which somehow felt more dangerous than confidence. I still don't understand why you helped me, Alara said. Adrian didn't answer right away. His eyes flicked briefly to her hands, then back to her face. Because you act without demanding, he said, and because you were prepared to be ignored. That landed deeper than she expected. She swallowed. You don't know me. No, he agreed, but I know people. A server arrived. Adrian ordered black coffee, no sugar. When they were alone again, Alara leaned forward slightly. You looked me up, she said. It wasn't an accusation, it was a fact. Yes, the honesty startled her. You're not even going to deny it. There's no point. She let out a quiet breath. That should bother me. It does, he said. You're just deciding how much. Her fingers tightened around her cup. Why me? She asked again. Out of everyone, Adrian's jaw tensed, the first visible crack in his composure. Because you don't know how disposable you think you are, he said, and because someone taught you to survive quietly. Alara felt something shift inside her. Recognition. Exposure. That's not fair, she said. No, he agreed. It's accurate. Another silence settled between them, thicker this time. She stood abruptly. I should go. Adrian didn't reach for her, didn't stop her. Of course, he said. She hesitated. Just a second too long. Thank you, she added. For the help. You're welcome, he replied. Then, softer. This isn't over. Her stomach dropped. That's not your decision, she said. A corner of his mouth lifted. Not a smile. Something else. It never is, he said, until it is. Alara walked out without looking back. She didn't see the way Adrian stayed seated long after she left, or the way his grip tightened around the coffee cup, because for the first time in years something had unsettled him, and Adrian Vale did not like losing control. Alara felt it before she could explain it. Not footsteps, not a sound, a pressure, like the air behind her had weight. She pushed Isla's stroller through the grocery store aisle, forcing herself to focus on ordinary things. Formula, bread, eggs, proof that life was normal again, proof that nothing had changed. But everything had. Her phone buzzed. She didn't look at it. She finished at the register, paid without checking the balance, and walked outside. The late afternoon light felt too bright, too exposed. She strapped Isla into the car, closed the door, and only then pulled out her phone. You forgot your scarf at the cafe. Her heart stuttered. She hadn't noticed. She hadn't seen him follow her. She hadn't felt his presence. You didn't need to text me, she replied. Seconds passed. You didn't need to leave it behind. Her fingers hovered. Where is it? With me. A warning bell rang somewhere deep in her chest. I'll get it another time, she typed. The response came slower, now measured. You're already getting it, Adrian wrote. Tomorrow, same place, noon. Her grip tightened around the phone. You don't get to schedule my life. A pause then. No, I don't, he replied. But he'll come anyway. She should have blocked him. She didn't. Chasti Mikuzaka Makim across the city, Adrian stood in the shadowed parking structure beneath his building, watching security footage play silently on a tablet. Ilara, the grocery store, the parking lot. He hated this part, the surveillance, the line he'd sworn not to cross again. And yet here he was, not because he needed control, because uncertainty unsettled him, because she had walked away. His phone buzzed. I'm not coming, Ilara wrote. He stared at the message longer than necessary. You don't have to, he replied, but you will. He shut off the screen. That night, Ilara lay awake, listening to Isla breathe, counting the seconds between each rise and fall of her chest. The apartment felt smaller now, thinner, like its walls could no longer protect her. She replayed the cafe over and over, the way Adrian hadn't touched her, the way he hadn't chased her, the way he had let her leave. That was what frightened her most. Her phone vibrated again. She didn't look. Another vibration, and another. Finally, she turned the screen over. I crossed a line today, Adrian wrote, and you deserve to know that. Her breath caught. What line? Minutes passed, long enough for her pulse to race. I checked where you were, he replied. Once. The honesty felt calculated, controlled. That's not okay, she typed. I know. Her hands shook, then stopped. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. I will, he wrote, if you tell me to your face. Silence filled the room. Ilara stared at Isla, at the tiny fist curled against her cheek, at the future she was trying to protect. Tomorrow, noon, she finally typed. But after that, this ends. Adrian read the message twice. Understood, he replied. But as he set the phone down, he already knew the truth. This was not ending. It was only changing shape. And the most dangerous part was no longer the power he had over her. It was the power she was beginning to have over him. Ilara arrived exactly at noon. The cafe looked harmless in daylight. Sunlight spilled through the windows, softening the corners, making yesterday's tension feel almost imagined. Almost. Adrian was already there. He stood when he saw her, not out of politeness, but instinct. His eyes searched her face like he was checking for damage. "You came," he said. "I said I would," Ilara replied. She didn't sit right away. "That doesn't mean I'm staying." "That's fair." She took the chair across from him, keeping the table between them. Distance felt necessary now. Protective. "You crossed a line," she said. No hesitation. No softness. Yes. No excuses. No explanations. That unsettled her more than denial would have. "You don't get to watch me," she continued. "You don't get to decide when I show up or where I go." "I agree." Her brows knit together. "Then why did you do it?" Adrian inhaled slowly, as if choosing truth over comfort. "Because I needed to know you were real," he said. "And because I don't handle unanswered questions well." "That sounds like a you problem." "It is." Silence settled, thinner now, edged with something raw. Ilara studied him. In daylight she saw the cracks better, the restraint that looked like control, the intensity that never fully turned off. "I don't want your money anymore," she said. His jaw tightened. "I already told you. I know what you told me," she interrupted. "This doesn't feel clean anymore." He nodded once. "Then let me make it clean." She laughed softly without humor. "You don't know how to do that." Adrian didn't argue. Instead, he slid something across the table. A card. No title, no company logo. Just a name and a number. "This is the only way to reach me," he said. "No tracking, no intermediaries, no surprises." She looked at it, then back at him. "And after today you decide." That was new. Ilara stood. Her legs felt steadier than she expected. "I'm taking Iceland and leaving town for a few days," she said. "If I feel watched again, if I feel pushed, this ends. Completely." Adrian met her gaze. "Understood." She hesitated, then added, "And Adrian, help doesn't mean ownership." A pause. "I know," he said. "I just forget sometimes." She walked out without looking back. This time he didn't follow, didn't check a screen, didn't reach for his phone. And for the first time in years, Adrian let something important walk away. 3 days passed. No messages, no gifts, no thrones. Ilara waited for the anxiety to peak. It didn't. Instead, something else crept in. Space. Room to breathe. To think. To notice how Isler laughed louder now. How sleep came easier when fear wasn't knocking at the door. On the 4th night, her phone buzzed. One message. "I kept my word." She stared at the screen longer than she should have. "I noticed," she replied. A minute passed, then, "I won't contact you again unless you say so." Her chest tightened. That wasn't control. That was surrender. She typed slowly. "I don't know what I want." The reply came after a pause that felt intentional. "Neither do I." Honesty again. Dangerous honesty. Ilara set the phone down and looked out the window. The city lights blinked back. Indifferent. Life didn't feel simpler, but it felt possible. Across town, Adrian stood alone in his apartment, phone in hand, untouched drink on the counter. He hadn't checked her location, hadn't asked questions he could easily answer himself. Restraint cost him more than power ever had, but it also did something else. It made him human again. His phone vibrated. "One coffee," Allura wrote. No expectations. A breath left him that he hadn't realized he was holding. "One coffee," he replied. "On your terms." As he set the phone down, Adrian understood the shift. This was no longer about saving her, or owning the outcome. It was about standing still long enough to be chosen. And Ilara, for the first time since the message that was never meant to be sent, didn't feel trapped by what came next. She felt curious, which, she would soon learn, could be just as dangerous. Ilara chose the place this time. A small cafe near the park, open windows, soft noise from the street. Somewhere people came and went, without noticing who was watching whom. Somewhere neutral. Adrian arrived 5 minutes late, not by accident. He scanned the room once, found her and stopped. Something in her posture had changed. She looked steadier, less guarded. That unsettled him more than fear ever had. "You look different," he said as he sat. I feel different, Ilara replied. That's why I agreed to this. They ordered coffee. Nothing fancy. Nothing symbolic. For a moment, they simply sat there, listening to the low hum of the cafe. This silence felt different from the others. Not tense, not heavy. Honest. I don't want to be rescued, Ilara said quietly. I never did. I know, Adrian replied. I wanted to feel necessary. That's not the same thing. She studied him, surprised. You're saying that like you've thought about it. I have. A pause. I don't trust you, she said. But I don't feel afraid anymore either. That's progress, he said, almost smiling. She noticed it then. The absence of pressure. He wasn't leaning in, wasn't steering the conversation. He was waiting. What happens now? Ilara asked. Adrian considered the question carefully. Now, he said, nothing happens unless you choose it. Her chest tightened. Choice had never been something freely given to her. She took a breath. Then I choose honesty, she said. I'm not healed. I'm still tired, and I don't know if I'm capable of anything complicated. I'm not simple, Adrian replied. So that's fair. Their eyes met. Held. The air between them shifted. Not with heat, but with recognition. Two people standing at the edge of something neither could fully define. Ilara stood first. I should go, she said. Of course. She hesitated, then added, I'll text you. A small nod. I'll wait. As she walked toward the door, she felt it. That quiet sense that the ground beneath her feet had moved. Just slightly. Outside, the late afternoon sun brushed her face. She exhaled, slower this time. Behind her, Adrian remained seated, untouched coffee cooling in front of him. Because some moments weren't meant to be rushed, they were meant to be remembered. And both of them understood the truth now. The real danger wasn't control. It wasn't power. It was what could grow when neither of them was holding the upper hand anymore. Ilara didn't text that night. Not because she didn't want to, but because she was afraid of how easily she might. The way her fingers hovered over her phone startled her. Curiosity was softer than fear, but far more persuasive. She told herself she needed space. She told herself space was protection. The next morning, life interrupted her resolve. The call came just after 9. Miss Moore? A woman's voice asked, clipped and professional. This is the property management office. Ilara's stomach tightened. Yes, there's been a review of your account. The outstanding balance on your apartment has been cleared in full. Her breath left her in a rush. That's not possible. It was processed last night, the woman continued. You're current through the end of the year. The line went dead. Ilara stared at the phone. No message, no explanation, just impact. She knew without asking. Anger rose first. Sharp, immediate. She dialed Adrian. He answered on the second ring. You said you would stop, she said, skipping any greeting. I said I would stop watching, he replied calmly. I didn't say I would stop caring. That wasn't your decision to make. I know. There it was again. That quiet acknowledgement that somehow made everything worse. You can't keep solving my life behind my back, she said. That's not help, that's control. Silence stretched. I thought distance would make this easier, Adrian said finally. For both of us. It doesn't, she replied. It just makes the lines blur. Another pause. I won't do it again, he said. Not without telling you first. She closed her eyes. That's not enough. What is? She didn't answer right away, because the truth scared her. I need to know, she said carefully, that if I walk away, you'll let me. Adrian didn't speak for several seconds. When he did, his voice was lower. Yes, he said. I will. She wanted to believe him. You can't buy my peace, Ilara said softly, and you can't earn access by being generous. I'm learning that, he replied, later than I should have. Her grip loosened around the phone. This doesn't feel safe anymore, she said. I know. They hung up without saying goodbye. That night, Ilara sat on the edge of her bed, Isla asleep beside her. The apartment felt secure, warm, paid for, and yet her chest felt tight. Because safety, she was realizing, wasn't just about locked doors or cleared balances. It was about agency. Across the city, Adrian stood by his window, watching the lights flicker on one by one. He hadn't fixed anything. He'd only exposed the truth faster. Distance no longer protected either of them. It only made the pull between them more undeniable. And somewhere between gratitude and anger, curiosity and caution, something fragile was forming. Something that could either steady them both or break them completely. Ilara didn't call back. She needed quiet more than clarity. The day settled into a careful rhythm. Work, Isla, sleep. A life held together by intention instead of crisis. She told herself this was stability, that the tension in her chest was just residue, not longing. Then a message arrived. I'm stepping back. This is the last time I reach out. No persuasion, no apology, no pressure, just space. She read it twice, and for the first time, the silence felt heavier than his presence ever had. She typed one word, okay. Across the city, Adrian set his phone down and exhaled slowly. Letting go wasn't weakness. He knew that he had negotiated far harder things than this, and yet he felt it, the absence, the unresolved edge. That night, Ilara stood by the window, city lights blinking like unanswered questions. She could choose distance. She could choose calm, or she could choose honesty. She didn't text. Not yet. But she didn't delete his number either, and sometimes that was the most dangerous choice of all. A week passed. Nothing broke. Nothing exploded. Life continued, which felt strange considering how close everything had come to unraveling. Ilara adjusted to the silence in small ways. She stopped checking her phone reflexively. She cooked real meals. She laughed more easily with Isler, as if the tension had finally loosened its grip. And yet, in the quiet moments, a thought kept returning. He kept his word. That mattered more than she wanted to admit. On the 8th day, she saw him again. Not up close, not intentionally. He stood across the street from the park, half hidden by a line of trees, speaking into his phone. He looked different. Not composed, not distant, but tired, human. Their eyes met. Just for a second, Adrian froze. He didn't wave, didn't cross the street, didn't follow. He turned and walked away. Ilara's breath caught. That was the moment she understood. The power had shifted, not to him, to her. That night, after Eiler fell asleep, Ilara picked up her phone. She typed slowly, "Coffee tomorrow, no expectations, no conditions." Across the city, Adrian read the message once. Then again, a quiet smile touched his face. "I'll be there," he replied, because some returns weren't loud. They were chosen, and choice, she was learning, was where everything truly began. They didn't choose the cafe this time. Ilara suggested a walk. Late afternoon, the park quiet, but not empty. Children in the distance. Dogs pulling at leashes. Life happening without urgency. She pushed Isla's stroller slowly, setting the pace without saying a word. Adrian walked beside her, not too close, not too far. "That was intentional," Ilara said finally. He nodded. "I know. I needed to see if you would leave," she continued. "If you really meant it." "And?" he asked. "You did," she said. "That matters." They stopped near a bench, shaded by trees. Ilara set the stroller brake and turned to face him. "This doesn't erase what happened," she said. "The money, the lines you crossed." "I'm not asking it to," Adrian replied. "I just want to be clear about what happens next." She waited. "No fixing," he said. "No interference. No decisions made for you. If I help, it's because you ask. If I stay, it's because you choose." The words landed carefully, measured. "And if I walk away again?" she asked. "I let you," he said, "even if I don't want to." Ilara searched his face for hesitation, for strategy. She didn't find it. "That's new for you," she said. "Yes," he admitted, and uncomfortable. A small smile touched her lips, the first genuine one he'd seen. "Good," she said. "Growth usually is." Isla stirred, letting out a soft sound. Ilara reached down instinctively, brushing her fingers over her daughter's blanket. Adrian watched the motion quietly. "I won't be a secret," Ilara added, "and I won't be a project." "You won't be either," he said. "You're a person. I lost sight of that once. I won't again." Silence settled. Not heavy, not charged, steady. Ilara nodded once. "Then we start slow," she said. "Painfully slow." Adrian exhaled. "I can do slow." She began pushing the stroller again. As they walked, something fragile but real formed between them. Not romance yet, not trust fully, but intention. And for the first time since a message was sent to the wrong number, neither of them felt like they were standing on unstable ground. They were walking, together, carefully. Time didn't change everything, but it changed enough. Ilara and Adrian settled into something deliberately undefined. Short walks, occasional coffee, conversations that ended before they felt too full. He never arrived early, never pushed, never assumed. And she noticed. Trust didn't arrive all at once. It formed in fragments. The way he asked before helping, the way he listened without correcting, the way he accepted her silences as complete sentences. There were moments when the past surfaced, when Ilara stiffened at generosity, when Adrian caught himself holding back not out of respect, but fear. They named those moments, quietly, without drama. That mattered too. One evening, as they sat on a bench watching Isla sleep, Ilara spoke without looking at him. "I don't feel owned," she said. "That's new for me." Adrian nodded. "I don't feel in control," he replied. "That's new for me." They shared a look then. Brief, honest, something softened. Not into certainty, but into possibility. They didn't touch, didn't promise, didn't define what this was becoming. They just stayed, and in the absence of pressure, something rare began to form. Not rescue, not power, but a choice made again and again. And that, quietly, was how trust started to take shape. The first time Ilara reached for him, it surprised them both. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't planned. They were standing outside her building, evening settling in softly around them. Isla had fallen asleep on Ilara's shoulder, warm and heavy in that way that made time slow. "I can take her," Adrian offered. Ilara hesitated, just a fraction of a second. Then she nodded. He held Isla carefully, awkward at first, then steadier. Ilara watched closely, every instinct alert. But there was no performance in him, no confidence borrowed from power. Just attention. "She trusts easily," Ilara said. "She learned from you," Adrian replied. The words landed quietly. When he handed Isla back, their fingers brushed. Neither pulled away. Ilara felt it then, not heat, not urgency, but clarity. A line inside her shifting. "This doesn't mean everything's fixed," she said. "I know," Adrian answered. "It doesn't mean I won't change my mind. I know that too." She looked at him, really looked. "I'm not ready for anything that feels like a promise." "Then don't make one," he said. "Just tell me what you want right now." The honesty of the question unsettled her more than pressure ever had. She swallowed. "I want to stop pretending this doesn't matter." Adrian didn't move, didn't reach for her. "That's enough," he said. Ilara stepped closer. She rested her forehead briefly against his chest. Not a kiss, not an embrace, just contact. Real, chosen. Adrian closed his eyes. In that moment, something irrevocable happened. Not because they crossed a line, but because they acknowledged one. And once a line was seen clearly, it could never be unseen. Whatever came next would be different. Because now, they both knew. This wasn't casual. And it wasn't safe. It was honest. And honesty in the end was the most dangerous thing of all. Ilara didn't sleep that night. Not because of fear, but because of the weight of what had been allowed. Letting someone close had always felt more dangerous than being alone. Alone, she knew the rules. With someone else, everything blurred. Morning came quietly. Isla babbled in her crib, unaware of the shift that had taken place. Ilara moved through the routine on autopilot, her thoughts returning again and again to the moment outside the building, the brush of fingers, the steadiness of his presence. Across town, Adrian stared at his phone longer than necessary. He hadn't crossed the line. That was the problem. Restraint had never demanded so much of him. They didn't meet that day. Or the next. The space between them wasn't distance, and it was processing, integration, letting choice settle without rushing it into meaning. On the third day, Ilara texted first. "I don't regret it." Adrian's reply came slower than usual. "Neither do I." A pause. "But I'm aware of what it costs." She read that twice. "So am I." That evening, they walked again. No stroller this time. Just the two of them, steps naturally falling into rhythm. No touching. No need to. "I don't want to lose myself," Ilara said as they stopped at the corner. "I don't want to lose you," Adrian replied, then corrected himself. "I don't want to lose the chance to know you." She appreciated the distinction. "This is a risk," she said. "Yes, and you don't usually take risks you can't control." A small smile touched his face. "That's changing." They stood there, the city breathing around them, neither moving away, because staying meant vulnerability. Staying meant consequences, but leaving now would mean denying something true. And for both of them, truth had become the one thing they were no longer willing to walk away from. Not yet. Not every story ends with certainty. Some end with intention. Ilara and Adrian did not arrive at answers. They arrived at awareness. That love without choice becomes control. That help without consent becomes debt. And that intimacy, when honest, is never harmless. But it is real. They didn't promise forever. They didn't resolve every fear. They chose something quieter and far more difficult. To keep choosing. To stay present. To stay accountable. To stay human. And maybe that's the truth beneath every emotional thriller disguised as romance. The greatest tension is not whether two people end up together. It's whether they learn how to stand beside each other without losing themselves. If this story made you feel something, Curiosity, discomfort, recognition. Stay with it. Some stories don't end when the chapter closes. They linger, and sometimes they only truly begin when you decide to keep listening.